Hey everyone, Kevin Duffy here, the Boston Herald, joined by Karen Guregian. Day one of training camp in the books. Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, Bill Belichick, the whole crew back out on the field. Karen, you spent most of this training camp practice watching Brady, observing how he was on the practice field. What can you tell us?
Well, I can tell you that he was a little subdued, but I did observe something pretty interesting. You know, all throughout mini camp, I don't believe he had one interaction at all with Bill Belichick. And as we kind of know, their relationship is a bit strained. Well, about an hour into the practice, he and Belichick met and talked for a few minutes by a tackling dummy, of all things. Belichick did most of the talking, and Brady was kind of nodding and listening, and Belichick was kind of demonstrative, using his hands. And again, it's hard to know what the conversation was about, but I have to think it's a pretty good sign that the two are communicating. If anything, as we all suspected, you know, once they get on the football field, you know, it's about business. They're down to business. And as we saw today, you know, Brady looked fine. Yeah,
it's tough to draw too many conclusions from this because they don't really get going with competitive drills and full contact and pads until Saturday. So it was, you know, they did have some competitive team drills. A lot of it was red zone, goal line type work. I thought in those drills, Brady to Gronkowski, that connection stood out in particular. I think Brady hit him for 2 straight touchdowns on one sequence. So I thought Brady and Gronk looked like you'd expect them to look like.
And his usual targets. He did hit Hogan a few times in the back of the end zone, and we'll see a little more action when they put the pads on Saturday.
Yeah, notable things. Trent Brown was playing left tackle for them, and I think going in, we didn't know if it was going to be Trent Brown, the rookie Isaiah Wynn, who was really working more so with Brian Hoyer and the second offensive line. Brady worked with Dorsett and Julian Edelman in a couple, just the three of them, in a couple of separate times during the practice, and they were really working on those kind of routes that Edelman has perfected, kind of the pivot route where you change direction, you bounce back outside. I asked Dorsett about that afterward. He said that really was something he was focusing on this offseason. Not necessarily all coming from the coaches, but he thought he's not just a pure speed receiver. He can do a little bit more. He got a lot stronger in the offseason. That reflects. You can see it just looking at him. And I think he feels pretty good, and he feels that he might be able to run some of those routes that Edelman and Amendola typically ran.
Yeah, and he also told me that, you know, him and Brady have also spent some other separate time in the film room as well, you know, going over routes and things like that. So I think that's something to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. I think that's all we got from the first training camp. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Kevin R. Duffy. Karen is at K Guregian. Find our stuff on bostonherald.com.